Pursuant to Rule 2 of the Council Rules of Procedure, I'm calling this meeting to order for the purpose of selecting a member of the council to serve as the presiding officer for tonight's meeting in the absence of the Vice Mayor and also the President Pro Tem. So the floor is now open for nominations. Council Lady Berry.
Thank you. I'm not sure what to call you, but thank you. I would like to know, I'm not sure where you fit in all this. Councilman, there we go.
Just call me Phil.
Phil, thank you. I would like to nominate Councilmember Ronnie Stein, the Chair of the Rules and Confirmations and Public Elections Committee, to serve tonight as the presiding officer for our meeting.
All right. Are there any other nominations? Second motion been made to close the nominations. Council Lady Berry, would you like to offer?
Thank you, Councilmember Claiborne. Yes, I will move that Councilman Stein be elected by acclamation to serve as tonight's presiding officer. Thank you.
And seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Councilman Stein, if you'd come and take the podium.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. We will officially come to order. If all members of the council as well as the public will please rise for our invocation and remain standing for our Pledge of Allegiance. We have a very special invocation this evening. The Reverend Kristen Clark is giving it, who is related to Councilman Banks, and with them is a very special guest. And Councilman, will you have the honor of introducing our special guest before Reverend Clark prays for us?
This extremely good-looking baby happens to be my firstborn son, Thaddeus Clark Banks, and he's very excited about some of the debate he's going to hear on the floor tonight. So thank you for letting us have the chance to introduce him.
Let's pray together this evening. God of love and grace, God of us all, we thank you for the gift of life and the many blessings we experience each and every day, for the blessing of friends and family, for the sunshine and warmth of today, for the good city of Nashville in which we live. God, tonight I thank you especially for the people gathered in this chamber. I thank you for their willingness to answer the call to public service, to give their time and energy, to give their lives in service to others. As they lead, I pray for strength and humility. As they make decisions, I ask for wisdom and guidance. As they plan, I ask for the gift of listening and for patience with one another and their constituents. God, I pray that each person here might be an instrument of justice and peace, that Nashville may be a city where all are welcome, where all who visit and live may have all they need to prosper and flourish. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's a big, strong voice you have there. Thank you. Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll. I asked our clerk to record the names of those members present during the course of our meeting. I need a motion for the adoption of the minutes of the meeting of January 17, 2012. Appropriately seconded. If there's no objections, the minutes of that meeting will stand as written. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
There are no messages from the mayor.
Are there any other committee reports of items not appearing on tonight's agenda? If not, then we will move to our regular agenda items. I do want to, at this point, take one moment. This is the introductory meeting for our new legal director. Mr. Solomon, welcome. We're delighted that you are here. Our first order of business is the proposed amendment to Rule 12 of the Rules of Procedure of the Metropolitan Council. Councilman Holloman, you are recognized for a motion.
First, I'd like to ask for committee report.
Vice Chairman Harmon.
The Rules Committee voted to recommend approval by a vote of 6-4 and 0 against.
Councilman Holloman.
Move approval with a brief explanation.
Second, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a rule change to our rules of procedure to shift from having public hearings on zoning bills from every 60 days at the first meeting of every odd month to once a month at the first meeting of every month. The hope being that this will, one, allow us to move zoning bills through the process faster, and also to create better opportunities if there are needs for deferral, that they aren't so detrimental to projects that need to be deferred, and create more opportunities for neighborhoods and other interested parties to be able to work with the applicant to resolve any differences they may have on the bill. The side effect as well from this rule change would be that whereas now when we have public hearings, other bills and other business are deferred out of the regular flow of work, that would no longer be the case if this change is approved tonight. And so all bills would continue to be on the agenda to help us move those bills through the process a little faster as well. And finally, it will mean that public hearings will not be rolled forward to 6 p.m. and we will have all meetings at 6:30 p.m. So with that, I renew my motion for approval.
Thank you. Councilman Garrett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I can't help but to say I'm certainly going to vote for this. I wasn't too sure to start with, but I just wanted to say, you know, what goes around comes around. This was they had meetings all during the 60s and 70s when I talked to Jason earlier. I wasn't here in the 60s and 70s, but this is not a new thing. It's something that the council has done before.
Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, the rule change, the rule amendment requires 27 votes. It requires a machine vote. Madam Clerk, if you would open the machine. Members of the council, if you would cast your votes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Madam Clerk, would you record the votes?
36 aye, 0 no, no abstention.
And the chair votes yes. Vice Chairman Harmon of the Rules Committee, may we have a report from the committee, sir?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Arts Commission, the Rules Committee interviewed Mrs. Meg McFadden, a reappointment, and Mr. Santi Tefel, first-time appointee, and voted to recommend both by a vote of 5-4 and none against, and I move their approval.
A second? Appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Thank you. Vice Chairman Harmon.
For the Electrical Examiners and Appeals Board, Mr. James Shaw is a reappointment, and the Rules Committee recommends 5-4 and none against, and I move his approval.
Appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Mr. Shaw is confirmed. Mr. Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Rules Committee interviewed Mrs. Anna Page, a first-time appointee for the Metropolitan Development and Housing Agency, and recommends her nomination by a vote of 5-4 and none against, and I move her approval.
Appropriately seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ms. Page is confirmed. Vice Chairman Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the Tourism and Convention Commission, Mr. Fletcher Foster is a first-time nomination, and the Rules Committee recommends 5-4 and none against, and I move his approval.
It's appropriately seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Mr. Foster is confirmed. Vice Chairman Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The two reappointments to the Work Release Board need to be deferred. Mr. Purdy until February 21st and Mrs. Sheffield indefinitely. And I so move.
Okay. Without objection, those two nominations will be deferred. Thank you. If you will stand when I please call your name, we want to express our appreciation to those of you that are agreeing to serve this government. Ms. Meg McFadden, Mr. Santi Tefel, Mr. James Shaw, Ms. Anna Page, Mr. Fletcher Foster. Thank you very much for agreeing to serve. Vice Chairman Harmon, there is a secondary motion that we need now that we have passed our rule.
Thank Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that all regular meetings of the council from and after the first meeting in June 2012 be held on the first and third Tuesday of each month at 6:30 p.m.
May I have a second? And clearly, if you understand that once we start in June with the first meeting being a regular meeting with a public hearing, that this makes uniform the meeting times for all of our meetings. Is there discussion or questions? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We will, beginning in June, from then on, meet at 6:30 each meeting. This moves us to resolutions. We have on our consent agenda for resolutions 23. RS 2012-136, 137, 138, 139, 140, 141, 142, 143, 144, 145, 146, 147, 148, 149, 150, 151, 152, 153, 154, 155, 156, 157, and on page 11 of your agenda, 159. I will now try to earn my keep for the evening. Resolution 2012-136, Council Members McGuire and Moore, appropriates $300,000 of the Capitol Mall Urban Development Action Grant repayments to MDHA for development of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. RS 2012-137, Council Members McGuire and Moore, appropriates $300,000 of Capitol Mall Urban Development Action Grant repayments to the MDHA for expansion of the Nashville Office of Service Source. RS 2012-138, Council Members Dowell, McGuire, and Matthews, authorizes the Director of Public Property Administration to exercise an option to purchase property for the new Cane Ridge Elementary School. RS 2012-139, Council Members Tigert, Berry, McGuire, approves an amendment to the interlocal agreement between Metro and the Convention Center Authority to clarify the provision of insurance benefits for qualifying employees of the Convention Center Authority. RS 2012-140, Councilmembers McGuire and Mitchell, approves an amendment to a grant for the U.S. Department of Justice to the state trial courts to reduce recidivism rates among felony offenders with mental health and substance abuse disorders. RS 2012-141, Councilmembers Mitchell and McGuire, approves a sub-grant interlocal agreement between the Office of Emergency Management and the Wilson County Sheriff's Department for participation in the fiscal year 2010 Port Security Grant Program funded by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. 2012-142, Councilmembers McGuire and Mitchell, approves a sub-grant interlocal agreement between the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management and the City of Hendersonville for participation in the fiscal year 2010 Port Security Grant Program funded by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. 2012-143, Councilmembers McGuire and Mitchell, approves the application and acceptance of a grant from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to the Mayor's Office of Emergency Management for use by various entities for infrastructure enhancement to prevent, respond to, and recover from threats of terrorism. RS 2012-144, Councilmembers McGuire and Mitchell, approves a grant from the Community Foundation to the Davidson County Sheriff's Office to build outdoor shelters for animals in collaboration with the Metro Animal Control Center. RS 2012-145, Councilmembers Langster and McGuire, approves a grant from the State Department of Health to the Metro Board of Health to provide HIV/AIDS prevention and surveillance. RS 2012-146, Councilmembers McGuire and Langster, approves an amendment to a grant from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency to the Metro Board of Health to protect air quality to achieve established ambient air standards and protect human health. RS 2012-147, Councilmembers McGuire and Langster, approves an agreement between the Metro Board of Health and Amerigroup of Tennessee, Inc. for electronic data exchange of data consisting of certain claims and billing information. 2012-148, Councilmembers McGuire and Hunt, approves a fast-track infrastructure development program grant from the State Economic and Community Development for benefit of the Nashville Entrepreneur Center. 2012-149, Councilmembers McGuire and Hunt, approves an agreement between Metro government and the Nashville Entrepreneur Center regarding implementation and funding of a fast-track grant. RS 2012-150, Councilmembers McGuire and Jernigan, approves an application for Big Band Dances grant from the Tennessee Arts Commission to the Metro Parks and Recreation Department. RS 2012-151, Councilmembers Westerholm, McGuire, and Jernigan, approves an application for the Kirkpatrick's Park Summer Enrichment Program from the Metro Development and Housing Agency to Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide recreational, educational, social, and cultural activities for youth. RS 2012-152, Councilmembers Westerholm, McGuire, and Jernigan, approves an application for the Swim Youth Enrichment Program from Metro Development and Housing Agency to Metro Parks and Recreation Department to provide swimming lessons and water safety training for children living in neighborhoods around community pools. 2012-153, Councilman McGuire authorized the Department of Law to settle Metro's claim against Hard Rock Directional Drilling. 2012-154, Councilman McGuire authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Beverly Beatty against Metro government in the amount of $6,000. 2012-155, Councilman McGuire authorized the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Kenesha Johnson against Metro in the amount of $10,000 to be paid out of the Self-Insured Liability Fund. 2012-156 authorized the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury and property damage claims of Sandra and Donald Murphy against Metro in the amount of $45,000. 2012-157, Councilman McGuire authorized the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Eileen Rose against Metro in the amount of $10,000. And Resolution 2012-159, Councilman Davis requests MDHA to create a redevelopment plan for the Cowan Street area. We need committee reports, please. Budget and Finance, Councilman McGuire.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. The Budget and Finance Committee unanimously approved RS 2012-136-137-138-140-141-142-145-146-147-148-149-150, 151-153-153-154-155-156, and yes, -157.
Councilman Tiger, Convention and Tourism.
Convention and Tourism approved 2012-139 by a vote of 3 for, 0 against.
Education, Councilman Matthews.
Education approved 2012-138. It passed 5 for, 0 against. Thank you.
Federal Grants Review, Councilwoman Moore.
Federal grants approved 136 and 137, 6 for, 0 against.
Did you all also have 159?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. 159 as well was approved as well.
Thank you very much. Health, Hospitals, and Social Services, Councilwoman Langster.
Thank you. The Health, Hospital, Social Service Committee approved RS 2012-145, 146, and 147, 5 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Parks, Councilman Jernigan.
Parks approved 150, 151, 152, 10 in favor, 0 against.
Thank you. Personnel, Councilwoman Berry.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. RS 2012-139 was approved 5 for, 0 against.
Planning and Zoning, Councilman Claiborne.
Planning and Zoning approved RS 2012-138 by a vote of 10-0.
Thank you. Public Safety, Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, Public Safety approved RS 2012-140, 141, 142, 143, and 144 by a vote of 6-0.
Thank you. And Public Works, Councilman Hunt.
Public Works approved 2012-148 and 149 by a margin of 11 for, 0 against.
Thank you. And Vice Chairman Harmon, may I have a motion on the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda.
May I have a second? Is there anyone that wishes to remove any of these bills for individual consideration? Seeing none, those in favor of the consent agenda say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The consent agenda is adopted. This moves us to bill, we have two late, we have Our late resolution, one late resolution, Councilwoman Langster approves a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Tennessee State University to allow TSU researchers to interview participants in the WIC nutrition program. Councilman Langster, you're recognized for a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask for a suspension of the rules to consider this late resolution.
Is there a second? Any objection to the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, our rules are suspended. Councilwoman Langster, you're recognized.
Committee report is 5-4-0 against.
And that's Health and Hospitals. And Councilman McGuire, Budget and Finance.
Budget and Finance voted to approve 17-4, none against.
And Councilwoman Langster, you're recognized for a motion.
Move for approval, please.
It's second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The late resolution is adopted. This brings us to bills on introduction and first reading. There are three that we need to consider individually. The first is a late ordinance from Council Members Tigert and Weiner that names the General Session Courtroom 1A located in the Justice A.A. Birch Building in, in honor of Judge Leon Rubin. Councilman Tigert, you're recognized.
I think I need to move to suspend the rules to consider this.
You do. Is there a second? Second. Are there any objections? Seeing none, Councilman Tigert, you're recognized.
I would move approval.
Second.
You might want to just offer an explanation because you are withdrawing another piece
We are
of
withdrawing
legislation.
one on third reading tonight because of the judicial library. The judges felt that honoring the late Judge Leon Rubin for his tremendous service in the community might be more fitting to honor with a naming of a courtroom rather than the judicial library. So that's the purpose.
This is appropriate before us. Is there discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It's adopted on first reading. We have a second late ordinance. Councilwoman Johnson amends the Metro Code to add requirements in the conversion of non-conforming static billboards to tri-face billboards. Councilwoman Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. I would like to move to suspend the rules to consider this late bill to amend the code to add requirements in the conversion of non-conforming static billboards to trifold billboards. The purpose of this filing of a late bill is so that it can replace BL 2011-30 for the public meeting scheduled for March. I have worked extensively on BL 2011-30, which was introduced in October 2011 with Director Bernhardt, the Planning Commission staff, and commissioners with feedback from Lamar Advertising to come up with a bill that best serves the purpose of providing an opportunity for citizens in the community to provide input and feedback should a request impact the neighboring community. I would appreciate your support of this suspension.
Thank you. It's seconded. Is there objection to the suspension of the rules? Seeing now, our rules are suspended. Councilman Johnson, if you would renew your motion.
I'd like to renew my motion.
Okay. It's appropriately seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none at this time, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is adopted on first reading. Councilwoman Johnson, you're also recognized because I think we also need to suspend the rules to withdraw 2011-30.
Yes, I'd like to move to suspend the rules to withdraw BL 2011-30. The purpose is that the bill we just acted on is its replacement.
Is there objection to the suspension of the rules? Seeing none, you're recognized for a motion to withdraw.
I would like to move to withdraw.
Thank you. It's second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of withdrawal say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 2011-30 is withdrawn.
Thank you.
Now I need a motion on all other bills on first reading. And second, any discussion? Anyone wants to pull any of those additionally? Seeing none, those in favor of our bills, remaining bills on first reading say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. We adopt those on first reading. That moves us to our bills on second reading. The first is 2011-56. This is Council Members Tigert, Weiner, and Dominy. This names the General Sessions Court Judicial Library in honor of Judge Leon Rubin. Councilman Tigert, you're recognized.
Rules Committee report, please.
Vice Chairman Harmon.
Thank you. The committee voted to withdraw at the request of the sponsor, 6-4-0 against.
Move to withdraw. Second, any objection to withdrawal? Seeing none, it is withdrawn. 2011-83, Councilman Stanley amends the Metro Code pertaining to the extension of water mains to properties served by wells. Councilman Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee reports, please.
Councilman McGuire.
The Budget and Finance Committee, at the request of the sponsor, voted to defer at a vote of 17-4, none against.
Okay. Councilman Stanley, you're recognized.
Move to defer this bill until the second meeting in March with a couple of brief comments.
Okay. It's appropriately seconded. You're recognized.
I just want to inform the people of the council, Metro Council, that I have been in communication with Dr. Brent Hager of the Health Department. He has informed me, and he provided me with a 6-page report on those 5 wells along Hoggett Ford Road that drain specifically directly into Stones River. And this city of ours is a major urban area in the United States. And as such, there are wells all throughout Davidson County. So I know it's going to be very, very expensive to try and shut down every well. But I think it's important for us to take the initiative to start this process of shutting down the wells on Hoggett Ford Road, because in 2003 I was informed that by the Water Department that they had finalized a takeover of Cumberland Utility District, but they did not provide water service to these people along Hoggett Ford Road. I'm just going to defer this, but each and every council member will be receiving the 6-page report from Dr. Hager of the Health Department. They will also be receiving a 2-page summary of the meeting I had on October 28, 2010. It was attended by 5 representatives of 5 different departments in Metro Nashville. They included the Law Department, the Water Services Department, the Health Department, the Fire Department, and I can't remember the other one. But I will let you know that you're going to receive this information from me. If you have additional wells in your district, and I would not doubt that you do, please review this material before this comes before Metro Council again, and get in touch with me if you have any questions or comments. I would appreciate that, and I would like for Metro Nashville to take the initiative and be the first city to start to shut down these wells in a large urban area of the United States. So with that, I ask for a deferral. Thank you.
The motion is to the second meeting in March, Councilman?
Yes.
Okay. The motion is to defer to the second meeting in March, appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is so deferred. BL 2012-91, Council members Weiner, Mitchell, and others, amends the Metro Code to require fiscal impact statements be prepared for legislation pending with the Council. Councilwoman Weiner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee reports, please.
Councilman McGuire. We're on 91.
Thank you. Budget and Finance voted to approve 17-4, none against.
Councilwoman Weiner.
Move for approval.
Appropriately seconded. Any comments?
I just would like to say that thank you so much to the staff for helping us put this together. I think it sends the correct message to the taxpayers that we're mindful of the procedures and the policies that we set in place in terms of how much that they cost the public.
Thank you. Appropriately moved and seconded. Is there further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is approved on second reading. This moves us to bills on third reading. 2011-73, Councilman Duval amends 65.74 acres of the Davenport Downs SP District for properties located at 4334 Maxwell Road and Maxwell Road unnumbered per permit 207 single-family residential units. Councilmember Duval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I'm told we can take 74 too, so
Yes,
we'll go
can
ahead and
we
do that. Thank
include
you.
both? What I would like to do is defer this for a little more housekeeping work.
Let me read the caption. I
Go ahead,
apologize.
sorry.
On 74, the caption is the zone changes from 9.52 acres from SP District to AR2A zoning for property located at Maxwell Road unnumbered, east of Flagstone Drive and within the floodplain overlay district. Now, Councilman Duvall, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, I've got a little bit more homework to do, and I've been, quite frankly, unable to do that, and so I'm going to be meeting with legal in the next couple weeks before the next meeting, and we'll have our homework done, and I'll move it at the next meeting. If so, I'd like to defer one meeting, please, both bills.
It is both 73 and 74 has been moved to defer for one meeting, appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 73 and 74 are deferred for one meeting. 2011-75. Councilman Banks amends 3.71 acres of the Seven Springs Planned Unit Development Overlay District for property located at 323 Seven Springs Way, zoned OR40 to permit 145 multifamily units. Councilman Banks, you're recognized.
Committee reports.
Councilman Claiborne? Oh, it's already been approved, I believe. There hasn't. I apologize. Councilman Banks?
Move approval.
Is there an amendment?
Oh, goodness, yes, there is.
I think that's a significant amendment.
Okay, well, I'd like to offer an amendment. It is there in your packet. So if I could...
And Mr. Cooper, the amendment, or planning the amendment?
The amendment adds the conditions that the Planning Commission placed on the bill, which are necessary for the Planning Commission approval. One adds a turn lane, and then a traffic impact study, and a solid waste management and recycling plan.
Move approval.
The amendment is appropriately second. Is there discussion or questions on the amendment? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The amendment is adopted. Councilman Banks, you're recognized on 2011-75 as amended.
All right, now we move approval.
And appropriately seconded, and with the amendment, the bill is then approved by the Planning Commission, so it does not take 27 votes. Is there discussion on 2011-75 as amended? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 2011-75 is adopted. 2011-82, Council Members Claiborne, Hunt, and others, adds a new chapter to the Metro Code to authorize the acceptance of incomplete infrastructure for public completion and maintenance under limited circumstances in the interest of public health and safety. Councilman Claiborne, you're recognized.
The bill has been approved by all committees, and I would move for approval.
It's appropriately seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 2011-82 is adopted. 2011-84, Council Members Harmon, Potts, and others, authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way easements and property rights for sidewalk improvements on Harding Place from Nolensville Pike to I-24. Councilman Harmon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The bill has received favorable committee reports, and I therefore move its approval.
It's moved and appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 2011-84 is adopted. 2011-85, Council Members McGuire and Hunt, authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way easements and property rights for their bridge replacement on Orlando Avenue. Councilman McGuire.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All committee reports in. I would move approval.
Appropriately seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, those in favor of 2011-85 say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 2011-85 is adopted. 2011-86, Council Members Lancaster and Hunt abandons an 8-inch sanitary sewer line and public utility easements and accepts the relocation of an 8-inch sewer main and a manhole located at 28th Avenue North. Councilwoman Lancaster.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All committee reports are in. I move for approval, please.
And appropriately seconded. Any discussion? See none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 2011-86 is adopted. 2011-87, Councilwoman Moore authorizes Trevecca Nazarene University to install, construct, and maintain an underground encroachment between 93 and 86 Nance Lane. Councilwoman Moore.
All committee reports are in. I move for approval, please.
It's appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 2011-87 is adopted. 2012-89, Councilwoman Moore amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 1806. Councilwoman Moore.
All committee reports are in. I move for approval, please.
Appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 2012-89 is adopted. 2012-90, Councilwoman Evans amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of Farnsworth Drive right-of-way. Councilwoman Evans.
Having all committee approvals, I move approval.
Appropriately seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. 2012-90 is adopted. That concludes our bills on third reading, and we move to our memorializing resolutions. The first is 2012-158. Councilman Duval calls for the resignation of Davidson County Clerk John Ariola. Councilman Duval.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Committee reports, please.
Vice Chair Harmon of the Rules Committee.
The committee voted to defer by Rule 10-4-0 against.
Councilman Duval.
I would like to speak on the deferral, and I also would like to move for deferral by rule.
You're recognized.
I'm going to say that while I take no malice with the committee, nor do I must agree that I disagree with their position on this particular bill. This is the State Comptroller's report. I do not believe it should have been deferred. I understand their position. I'll accept it. I will bring this back. It is deferred for one meeting, so it'll be back this month. But I've got to tell you, folks, we're sitting here with the Tennessee State Comptroller's report, and all you've got to do is read the issues and read the report yourself, and then compare that to what we did with David Torrance. And there's absolutely no way you can see any different than to support this resolution. Listen to your constituents, listen to what we've done in the past, and follow accordingly. Thank you for allowing me to speak, Mr. Chairman. Move for deferral.
And that's appropriately seconded, and it is deferred by rule, so it is automatic. Those in favor of deferral say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. It is deferred for one meeting. 2012-160, Councilman Tigert supports state legislation that would expand the prohibition on the manufacture, sale, delivery, and possession of synthetic drugs beyond those made with the specific ingredients listed in the current statutes. Councilman Tigert.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Mitchell.
The Public Safety Committee deferred by rule.
Councilman Tigert.
I would move for a suspension of the rules. I was in an adjacent room, and they didn't know where I was when this came up. And the urgency of this is the state legislature is now considering the bill. And even though I normally do not want to meddle in affairs, this is in support of a bill currently before our state. So I would appreciate your indulgence to speak on this bill.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, the rules are suspended. Councilman Tigert, you're recognized on 2012-160. Let me reread the caption in case it supports state legislation that would expand the prohibition on the manufacture, sale, delivery, and possession of synthetic drugs beyond those made with the specific ingredients listed in the current statutes. Councilman Tigert.
Thank you very much, members of council. This is an issue.
Let me interrupt you 1 second.
Yes.
We need a motion for approval.
Move approval. Thank you.
Second. Now you're recognized.
This is an issue that has become very emotional to me based on the personal friendship. And I want to tell you a story of a young man who was in his senior year of high school. He was captain of his high school basketball team. And somehow he got mixed up with these products that are sold at local retail stores. This is a product called K4. This one has a picture of a nice little grapevine on it, and it's grape flavored. This one is Hubba Bubba. This stuff is deadly. This stuff is addictive, and it is being sold all over this county in every community to our teenagers. It is more addictive than marijuana. And this young man, who should be enjoying his senior year at high school as the captain of his basketball team, is now in a rehab facility out west in a boot camp. His parents are spending $50,000 trying to get his life back in order. because of the dangers of this product. It is sold next to pipes and other paraphernalia that you use, and even though when his parents suspected this young man had a problem, they went to their school and asked to pay for drug tests to help hopefully keep this young man from making any further mistakes. And lo and behold, this product, because of our drug companies that have these great abilities, there is no drug test for this particular product, and he walked around like a zombie. It's one of the most tragic stories for a teenager that I can imagine a family going through. And so even though I think we have our role here, we have no jurisdiction, as Mr. Cooper has researched, over this product and similar products. Fortunately, our state legislatures do. So I would appreciate your support to send a message that we are in complete unanimous agreement with legislation that would outlaw these and other type of products that have proven so detrimental to our young people. Thank you.
Thank you. Motion has been appropriately seconded. Is there discussion? Seeing none, those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. 2012-160 is adopted. We have one late memorializing resolution which will require suspension of the rules. Councilman Mitchell and others, which request the Metro Board of Public Education to comply with its labor negotiation policy. Councilman Matthews, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will ask for a suspension of the rules at this time.
Is there any objection to a suspension of the rules? Seeing none, the rules are suspended. Councilman Matthews, you're recognized.
I would like to move approval of this resolution.
Let me reread the caption. It requests the Metro Board of Public Education to comply with its labor negotiations policy, and also I would ask the clerk to assign the next logical number to this bill. Councilman Mitchell, do we have a second?
Second.
It's appropriately seconded. Councilman Matthews, you're recognized.
You need committee report?
Oh, I'm sorry, committee report. You're
Education moved to pass this bill 2 for, 1 against, 2 abstaining.
You're recognized if you have any comments.
No,
okay.
At this time.
Councilwoman Johnson, you're recognized.
Thank you. I received this, I guess, a memo here, like all other council members this evening, that was introduced to us just shortly ago. And I wanted to speak to that because I was a member of the Metro School Board. And so I sat on the board when this decision was made with regard to policy governance. And I just wanted to explain to each of you my view as to what has happened in terms of that action that we took. In policy governance, the board sets the overall vision and goals for the system and does so through setting of broad policy. It is the director's responsibility to implement procedures to make that vision a reality and to ensure that the goals are met. It is also the director's responsibility to bring to the board information and request that, when deemed necessary, to meet goals that the policy be revised. He should not unilaterally change existing policy without bringing it to the board. That is what we had agreed upon when we passed this action in 2003. And so I just wanted to have that clarification on the floor, since I was a member of the board at that time. And although there are different interpretations by 2 board members, this is my understanding of the action that we took. Thank you.
Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. I too was on the board, however, I wasn't on the board in 2003 when policy governance was adopted, and it basically moved the policy procedure from the Board of Education to the Director of Schools, which aligns with state law. Now, recent changes of state law, specifically 49.2.301 and 49.5.601, 49.5.601 has removed collaborative or collective bargaining from the teachers. 492301 has basically said that support employees will be at-will employees. So the director is following the state law that recently changed in 2011, number one. Secondly, under board policy EE4 and 6, it states clearly that all employees will be treated equally. And so therefore, when the state said you can no longer do collective bargaining with the teachers union, the director of schools is merely following the policy that the board has outlined. Mr. Cooper, I'm certainly not an attorney, but the interpretation, you've looked at it, and we heard from Metro Legal for the school board and also from you in committee, the interpretation of 492301 and 495601, am I interpreting it correctly?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think the action that we're taking here tonight, we're sending a resolution. If this passes, we're sending a resolution to the director of schools asking him to do something that by law he can't do. So I would ask you to please consider that because, and also the board policy has stated very clearly that all employees will be treated equally. So I thank you for your time. And I did put out a memo on the table so you can see the board policy and also the state law.
Councilman Claiborne, do you still want to be recognized?
No, I was going to ask about the legality if we pass this. I guess I will, since I've got the microphone here. In looking at the handout that we have, it seems in the last two bullets on the front page that a provision has been made to accomplish what this resolution is purporting to do. Is that a fair statement?
I haven't seen any documentation that came up in the committee, but I haven't seen that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Mitchell.
Yeah, John, as legal counsel, is this an at-will work state?
Yes, sir.
And it's been so for several years, as long as as long as I can remember. Has it been that way for decades?
It's been right to work state for many, many years.
Okay, so, any legislation saying all employees in the state of Tennessee pretty much are employees at will, but you can still have an understanding with an organization as a memorandum of understanding as to what the guidelines of your job performance are expected to be. You can still be fired with a MOU, a memorandum of understanding. It's just laying a foundation of the playing rules that those employees have been living under since July of 2000. Nothing changed overnight to change the rules for these folks, to take rights away from people. These are not the highest of paid employees. As our previous council debated a few years ago with the privatization of the janitorial staff, as I said then, these are the least among us. Together, when they join together, in an organization, they have a louder voice than these low-paid employees have as a single voice. That's all these people are asking for. They're not asking for a pay raise. They're not asking for more benefits. They're not asking for more time off. They're just asking for the rules not to be changed in the middle of the game, ladies and gentlemen. And that's all this resolution is asking, for these people to be given the respect to not change the rules on them and allow them to do their job without worrying about losing their job. Thank you.
Councilman Dominy.
Thank you. I'll say I'm torn between this. I understand the desire of the groups to have negotiating power and the ability to communicate. And there's obviously some strained relations between the director of the schools and the two groups that are mentioned here. I don't know that this resolution improves those strained relationships to improve the communication. I don't see that it does. I asked that in committee discussion and really didn't get a satisfactory answer. I got a lot of talk about what took place last year, which I didn't agree with, I don't think was appropriate.
But I don't know that this resolution helps us improve that relationship so they have some communication. I'm all for improving that communication, but I don't think this gets here. And as such, I can't support it like it is. I would ask the sponsor to defer it so we can work together to find a resolution that actually addresses these issues collectively rather than driving a wedge between the two bodies.
Councilman Maynard.
Thank you, Councilman Stein. There was a statement made that the state law prohibits Dr. Register for entering into an MOU with the SEIU or Steelworkers. Do you agree with that, Mr. Cooper?
If it is a memorandum of understanding or some other document that just outlines the procedures that will be followed, then yes, that would be allowed. Now, the state law, as Councilman Glover stated, does prohibit collective bargaining with the teachers, which therefore, under board policy, my reading of it would also prohibit collective bargaining with the service employees. But if it's just a non-binding memorandum reflecting the intent and procedures that the parties will follow, I think that would be permissible, since the state law says that the service employees, non-certificated employees, are at will and that they are to be hired at will and dismissed in accordance with board policy. So if the board policy has delegated that authority to the director, then that would be permissible.
Thank you.
Councilman Holloman, you were in line. We want to stay in line?
I was just going to ask the same question that Councilman Maynard asked.
Councilwoman Johnson.
Thank you for allowing me to speak again. Again, I want to clarify the 2003 date that I referenced. Again, I was given this information pretty much at the last minute, as many of you all were given this today. And so I was just referencing the document itself, not saying that I was elected in 2003. We did vote in 2006 when we went over policy governance, what we were going to do as a board. And what I want to again clarify to everyone that when we put in place policy governance, it was never the intent it does not mean that the director of schools can overturn board policy. And so I just want to make that clear that this action with the board did not give policy the responsibility of setting policy that the board sets to the director. So I want to make that clear because that's what we have all been discussing tonight. The board did not give that responsibility to the director. And so I just wanted to make that clear that I'm sorry I misspoke on that date. I was only referencing what was placed in the document. And again, as a member of the board, I feel that I can speak strongly against this because actually, not the bill, but against this letter, because I was actually a member of the board and I was involved in the decisions regarding policy governance. Thank you.
Councilwoman Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the proponents of this resolution, do you have any information about how much money this might potentially save schools or opponents too? Any cost savings associated with Dr. Register's move?
Are there any other questions? Because then we'll come back to them, but I'll give the floor. Do you have any, is that your?
I guess my second follow-up question would be, is this going to advance test scores or our educational mission? Has Dr. Register provided us with any of that information?
Does any one of the particular sponsors want to address that? Councilman Matthews?
To my understanding, and from what I've heard from the unions, is this is not a financial matter. This is not anything that's going to, they're not asking for any finances to be put into this. They're asking for a policy or memorandum of understanding that was already in place to stay in place. And it shouldn't, it shouldn't affect the financial state of the school board one way or another.
Okay, so Dr. Register is undertaking this effort without any documented benefit to either his budget or to the students of MMPS? Is that
That's
your
correct.
understanding?
That's my understanding.
I'm going to vote for this, and normally I wouldn't get involved in this sort of thing, but this looks like to me a gratuitous political, fight from MMPS that just doesn't deliver any results. I mean, with the janitorial and landscaping staffs last year, they could at least make the argument that it was budgetary. We don't even have a budgetary argument here, so I'm going to vote with the sponsors with some hesitation, but because I think our former school board members here tonight have made some really excellent points and provided some good information, but this is needless controversy from MMPS.
Councilman Harmon.
Thank you. I call for the previous question.
Previous question is called. Those in favor of the previous question, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The previous question prevails. We will have a machine vote. Madam Clerk, if you would open the machine. Members of the council, if you would cast your votes. Does anyone wish to change their vote? Good work. Madam Clerk, if you would close the machines. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk. Go ahead.
29 aye, 5 no, 2 abstentions.
2012-162 is adopted. If there's no other business to come before this body tonight, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All right. So all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. We stand adjourned.